Good morning, y'all. Or as I prefer to say, good morning, eh? You're going to realize very quickly as I speak that, I'm not from around here originally. But that's okay. That song, Love Lifted Me, is actually a really good song as I lead into what I'm talking about today. Because there has been many times in my life that the only thing that kept me going was God's love. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what lifts us up and keeps us going. But one of the things, just so you understand, my name is Scott Dakin. Last January, I retired from Barrow County Fire Department after almost 30 years in fire and EMS. Volunteered way back in the day with a young man down there in the aisle. And, I guess if it was 30 years ago, we can't say young men anymore. But, God's plan and my plan are never the same. Sometimes I think he says, and laughs at me and says, let me show you how it's done. And I retired and thought, I'm going to take some time, and I did. I gave myself a month rest. And then God said, okay, it's time to get going again. And he led me to the ministry village. And people kind of laugh at it because I'm retired. That means I have 3 jobs. And it keeps me busy. But the really cool thing is that I get to work in God's ministry in every aspect that I do. And I've never, ever done that before. And it was a journey to get here. It really was a journey to get here. But one of the things that really hit me was I remember in about a year before I retired, I had a gentleman ask me, Scott, when are you going to say yes to God? And now that I've said yes, I question myself, why didn't I say this 20 years ago? Because it's a better life that I'm living. It's not an easy life, but it's a better life because I get to work with God and for God in every aspect of my life right now. So I'm with the Ministry Village. We have been in Barrow County since 2011. One of the things that is unique about the Ministry Village, I tell everybody that we are a Christian counseling agency right now and much more. And when I get pushed back, I tell everybody that I will never apologize about us being Christian. The uniqueness is you do not have to be a Christian to come to our services. We want to help everybody because that's what God calls us to do. I look at it like the best thing about that is even if you are an atheist and you come in and take counseling from us, I look at that as 2 bonuses. Number one, we have some of the best people in the world working for us there. And they're going to help you get what you need to get. And they're going to make you stronger. The other bonus is that we will not shove God down your throat because that's not what we do. But man, when you leave, I know those counselors are praying for you. That's a pretty cool little aspect of it. But when we start to look at things and throughout the Bible, sometimes we get this, you're a Christian, so your life's going to be perfect. Raise your hand if that's true, because I want to meet you. My life is far from perfect. My life has a lot of ups and downs in it. And I tell everybody the difference is, I don't know how I'd go through some of the stuff I go through if I didn't have God. And if I didn't have the Christians in my life that I have. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. God placed us on this earth with a purpose. And that purpose is to glorify Him. And we talked a little bit. I think everybody's heart broke a little bit this weekend when we heard about what was happening in Texas. And I think what brought it out the most was the Mystic Camp with over 20 kids missing. And we all have our thoughts on that and our heartbreak on that. And sometimes we wonder how God can allow stuff like that to happen. September 4th last year was one of those days in Barrow County. I've walked the halls of Apalachee for as long as Apalachee's been open. And on September 4th, when I was called to the scene, it was nothing like I'd ever walked through before. The school was nothing like it was. But you know what? The response to it is what we hold on to. The response is what got talked about. One of my jobs, I own my own business where I teach critical incident stress management. And because of that, I was called in to help lead the crisis response to Apalachee, and I've been involved in it ever since and will stay involved in it for years to come. And one of the things that I found unique, I had a gentleman that I reached out to that is somewhat of an expert on school shootings, unfortunately. But I reached out to him. I believe that, we learn from things, and I wanted to see what the best ways to do things. And one of the things he told me that I thought was really cool was there was more coverage in the first few days. There was more coverage about how Barrow County responded than there was coverage about the shooting. That's Barrow County. That's us. You guys are in this we are a community thing, and I think that's really cool. Because as I've learned over the years, the old adage of, they'll come to church. No, they won't. We got to meet them where they're at. And we've got to be a part of the community. Church is not this building. Church is the people sitting in this building. And but it's so much more than that. One of the things I try to tie into as we talk, I always try, because, one of the other trails that God put me on, which I fought him for several years because I didn't think I was good enough, and I still don't think I'm good enough, but he made me become a pastor. And yeah, he made me. You know how he is, right? You can fight him all you want, but he's going to win. But I promise you I'll still fight because that's just who I am. But I always try to tie into things on what I'm talking about. And in Matthew 18, so Jesus is teaching his disciples at this point on how to deal with sin and how to deal with people. And in 18:19 it reads, "Again, truly I tell you, that if two of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three gather in my name, there I am with them." We are called to disciple each other. We are called to do life together. That's what discipleship is. And I'm going to stand up for pastors around the world right now because I used to be this way. And then I kind of got this thing from Jesus that said, "You're stupid." Discipleship, we are all called to disciple. We are all called to be discipled. And I will challenge you to think about who is discipling you, and just as important, who are you discipling? Because here's the thing. As I look at this church, I look at the number of people in this, just sitting here, not even the ones online, just sitting here. And I think to myself, how many years did we think that the pastor's job is to disciple the church? The pastor is supposed to lead the church, no doubt about that. But it hit me one day when I was doing a study on the disciples that Jesus discipled 12. And as a matter of fact, he got down to 3 when it came to the nitty-gritty of it. So if Jesus did 12, how do we expect a pastor to do 50, 60, 100, 200 people? We all need to be discipling. And it takes more than just one church to do this. We've got to be able to learn. We've got to be able to build each other up. And we've got to be able to do it. My understanding is one of your cores this year is 1 Corinthians 1:10. "Now I encourage you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, agree with each other and don't be divided into rival groups. Instead, be restored with the same mind and the same purpose." And I will say that this kind of strikes a little bit to the church itself. Barrow is very unique in this aspect because many churches want to isolate themselves. And it comes for many different reasons. But in Barrow County, one of the things that was really cool that I was able to get set up, the day the schools went back, not Apalachee, but the rest of the schools, the day that school went back, we had 54 pastors in the school system. Spent the day talking to kids and staff and parents. 54 pastors. Now, in case you can't do math, that's not 54 Methodist churches. And it's not 54 Baptist churches. And it's not 54 Catholic churches. There's not 54 of any one church in Barrow County. It took us all working together to do that. Shortly after, it was mid-September, we had several pastors approach us, and we decided, you know what, let's all work together on this. So we put a pastors group together. And we met in September, and we have been meeting every month since then. Different denominations, because we realized that we can work together for God's kingdom. We can build Barrow County back the way it should be. I said when I met with the staff of Apalachee High School after the shooting, I told them that September 4th is not going to define Barrow County or Apalachee High School. September 5th on is what defines us, and we are going to set the bar high on how to recover, how to grow from this, how to grow and heal from this. And it's going to take everybody working together. And I think it's pretty cool that we are able to do that as a group. So we have many different denominations involved, including this one. Miss Debbie has been a part of it, and I got to be honest, I like picking on her. I like having fun with her. Sorry, it came out wrong. She's an incredible lady. You guys are blessed to have her here. But everybody wanted to help, and how do we heal from Apalachee? And how do we help as a community? And there were a lot of churches that opened their doors that night even and allowed people to come in and pray. And I think prayer is one of the most powerful things you can do. I think where we struggle sometimes is that prayer also requires action. When we pray, God, okay, God, please help us through this. Are you willing to do what God asks you to do as part of it? Are you willing to step into the voids where they are? And that's what this pastor group is doing, and it's really cool to watch. It's really cool that, we came to a realization. We're not competing against each other. There's enough lost people. They need us all. And we've done some stuff in this that has been really cool. We had actually a roundtable discussion here in Auburn among the pastors. One of the meetings was, how do you talk about trauma from the pulpit? Because we have this myth in our heads also that our pastors are above human beings, and they're not. I'm as flawed as anybody in this church, and I am a pastor. I'm flawed. I make my mistakes, and I've suffered trauma. I can tell you right now, you don't want the nightmares that I have. And the only way I can get through that is by talking about it. But the number of people that I get to help by talking about it as well. So to sit there with pastors, and there's a group of pastors, and I will tell you, in that meeting it was about 50-50. About 50% of them speak regularly from the pulpit about what trauma is and how it affects you, because it does. And you know what the other 50% did? Ask questions. Well, how can I do that? Because we all have this. I'm telling you all, I've been held to some pretty powerful standards over the years, especially as a firefighter. But it's nothing compared to the standard I feel when God placed me as a pastor. So, do I dare to admit to you all that I'm struggling? Because wait a minute, I'm a pastor, I shouldn't struggle. And if you believe that, then I can explain the reality of life is I struggle. September actually, I'll straight up tell you, September was the worst month of my life and the greatest month of my life, because I got to watch God move. We stood in the hallways on September 4th. Several of us stood in the hallways and looked back over the last few years and realized God was preparing Barrow County for that day. God's the ultimate chess move, and he was placing us. I could not have done what I'd done had I not retired in January. I could not have led the way I got to lead as a firefighter. I couldn't have done it. I would have had other duties. But as the ministry village and in charge of the ministry village, I was able to lead. God moved me to that. And I fought retirement. I fought it hard because as a child once put it to me about a month and a half after I retired, the child said what I used to think. When he came up to me, he said, Pastor Bob, because, kids, they call me many things. They said, Pastor Bob, didn't you used to be important? Weren't you a firefighter? Yeah, you're right. I used to be important. Now I'm just me. But it allowed me to see so much stuff, including what happened in this group. This group was phenomenal to watch. This pastor group is great. We have had events. We had a lunch for them where we brought people in to talk about it, about trauma and what a pastor suffers. I've had people share their experiences with me for many years because of the roles I have had in my life. But man, I did realize when you say I'm a pastor, man, everybody shares everything with you. And that's hard. It's hard because it's heartbreaking. But again, even in that, you get to see God move. We're not going to get into that discussion, but that whole discussion of how can God allow evil to exist. Well, guess what God tends to do? I'm going to just say this much. Guess what God tends to do? Turn that evil into glorifying him. The response that we did glorified him on September 4th. That's what got glorified, not the shooting. But this pastors group is just, it's really cool. I will tell you that on July 27th, we have a bunch of churches coming together, and you guys are one of them. And we are going to be praying at every school in Barrow County, at every Barrow County school, as they prepare to return to school. We meet at 5 o'clock that afternoon, and we're going to pray at every school. And then at 6:15, we want to bring everybody together at Apalachee and pray for Apalachee. Think about that. And as I said, it's different denominations. But there's churches saying, yeah, we'll step into this and we will pray. And my prayer beyond that is that those churches that adopt those schools build that relationship to stay as a part of it. Because they're needed. The schools need us. The schools need us. And sometimes, many times it's not to go in there and preach. I don't preach at a school. But I sure show God's love at a school. And I bring that peace with me. I had a pile of students. I didn't like it. But I had a pile of students and teachers come up to me that day and hug me and tell me how much better they felt because I was there. And it wasn't me, it was God. God was with me. God brought that peace to them that day, not me. I'm nowhere near that good. So I'm going to share a little bit about beyond that. I think it's really cool that we do have that kind of group in Barrow County. We have pastors. Can you imagine what God's kingdom is going to look like when we have pastors working together like that? When we have pastors that say, you know what, I want to build you up just as much as us up. And we want to be there for the community, and we want to teach the community that we're never going back to normal, but we're going to smile again. And we're going to heal, and we're going to be stronger, and Barrow County is going to set the bar that others strive to be. That's my prayer. We set the bar on healing by coming together. And I'll share some really cool things as I go along. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is in Exodus. I jump around the Bible a little bit, and I apologize for that, kind of, sort of. But I want to show, in this, I want to show you all that it's part of everything we do. So in Exodus 18, verse 13, God had just brought the Israelites out of Egypt. And they're in the wilderness. And Moses' father-in-law Jethro came, and he noticed something. The next day, Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning till evening?" Moses answered him, because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decree and instructions. Moses' father-in-law replied, but what you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. We cannot do this alone. I can't take all of the hurt in Barrow County and bear it myself. I tried that. I really tried that in September last year, and it ended up putting me in a hospital in the Bahamas, dying, because I tried to handle it myself. We can't do that. God puts pieces and places of things into place to help us. One of those things is a village counseling center. Ministry Village has a counseling center in Winder. We currently have 8 counselors and 3 interns. We're one of the biggest Christian counseling agencies in Northeast Georgia. And I think God built it here for a specific reason, and September 4th said why he built that in September. God built the Ministry Village. It is his. It was different churches came together to develop this. We offer a bunch of different types of counseling. And I want to tell you all something. We are on a pace this year that as the leader of it, I've got to try to figure out how to manage it all, because our growth has been phenomenal. We have doubled the number of referrals coming into our center in the first 6 months compared to the first 6 months of last year. Doubled the business. And it's not all Apalachee. That's what's really cool about it. I think it's a great thing, because Apalachee made us talk about mental health. Apalachee talked about our struggles. Last year we saw an increase in the number of people that came for marriage counseling and family counseling. Do you know what stronger families do to a community? They make us stronger. That's a good thing. And seeking help to become stronger? I mean, if you broke your leg, would you go to the doctor? You'd go get it fixed, right? My job gave me PTSD. Me getting help was the right thing to do. I would have got it out of fallen off. Well, I fell off ladders. I would have gotten it out of burnt. Well, never mind. I would have got help for other things. Why didn't I get help for my mental health? But I fought that for years because I'm strong enough. I don't need help. I got this. I'm helping everybody else. And the helper almost died because of it. We saw an increase. To me, this is one of the best things that I can honestly say. We saw an increase in men. We saw a huge increase in men coming for help. Because, man, we need it. Life's hard. Even with God, life is hard. I can't imagine life without God. And sometimes the best way we can lead as men is to show our weakness and accept help. God created us to do that together. He created the ministry village. I have had Christians tell me, you know what? I don't believe in what you guys do because people should just pray more. That's such a wrong answer. God created us to do this together. I strongly and will always believe that God created the ministry village. God created the counselors there. God created what is next there. If I'm doing God's work, why are people hesitant to support that? You would if I said, hey, I'm building a clinic to fix all the people that are hurt. We should support each other through all of our aspects of life. It is mind, body, and soul is all God's, and we need to glorify that. In Galatians, God used Galatians 6 in the letter Paul wrote to the Galatians. He talked about mutual support for each other. And in Galatians 6:2, it says, carry each other's burden, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. We're about to carry some bigger burdens right now. As of last month, Ministry Village has hired a center director. We are opening the branch It is a resiliency center dedicated to Apalachee right now, and it will expand in time. But we are hiring people in the process. We've hired one navigator, and we're hiring more as we go along, and we should be up to full staff hopefully by October or November. And the Resiliency Center is set up to help people throughout all aspects. Do you know that Apalachee is going to cause people to lose their jobs? It's going to cause people to lose their homes. It's going to cause problems in the families. It's not just mental health. There's so much that goes into this. And we have the privilege of being God's hands and feet in this. This Resiliency Center is going to take a lot of work. It's already taken a lot of work just to get us to this point. God never said it'd be easy, but he did tell me to do it. Again, I will tell you a little story in the fact that I fought it for many years. Nope, not going to do it. Not many years, many months. They approached me numerous times to start this, and I kept saying no. And then I did what I should have done the first time and said, well, let me pray about it. And God said, yeah, do it. The branch is such a huge thing in Barrow County, and it's going to help with the healing of it. It's going to help with the bringing back hope. It's going to bring back all kinds of things. You'll have a navigator that, if you were affected by Apalachee, you'll have a navigator that will help you walk through life together for the next couple of years. That person will help you get what you need to recover and heal. Or we'll do everything in our power to try to find it. In Philippians 4, 6, and 7, God says, don't be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known. God wants us to pray. God wants us to pray. And just as important, he wants us to move forward. And he wants us to help each other. He is calling every person in this room right now, every person online, to be part of this. The ministry village is hosting the branch, but the branch is Barrow County. The Resiliency Center and the Counseling Center is Barrow County. And he's calling for y'all to help. And I love the fact that what you guys do in the community, because you guys do a lot in the community. So as you go through this, I want you to take a couple applications as I wrap this up. One thing is we all need to pray with and for each other. And sometimes that's just doing exactly what you did at the beginning of the service, during the beginning of the service, where you raise up prayer requests. Sometimes there's prayer requests that we ain't going to share in this crowd. But we still need people praying for it. And don't be that gossip prayer. Well, you should pray for Martha because I saw her drinking. That's not. But does Martha need prayer? Maybe. Let's not do the gossip, but let's pray for each other. I can honestly tell you, God taught me many years ago, if you truly want a strong relationship, whether it be in your marriage, your family, or even your friends, the strongest relationship you could ever build is one that is based around prayer. When you pray together, there is an intimacy that nothing else can match. So be praying for each other. The other thing that God has taught me is that we're not built to do this alone. Share your burdens. I've got a group of people around me. Let me tell you, I am stubborn. Because I'm me. I am the guy that I had people that were literally worried about me dying in September, and I came close to it. And did I listen to any of them? No. I got this. That's what I kept telling them. I'm okay. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. Because if I don't do it, it won't get done. I'm not God. And I had to share my burdens. And I've learned. So you all know I had surgery this week. This is my first outing out of my house since I had the surgery. That's not me. I wanted to go back to work. I told my staff the surgery was Tuesday. I'd come to work Wednesday. I was in my head, I got this. I can do this. And honestly, in my head, there's a part of me that thinks, yes, I could have. But I know without a fact, I know no doubt in my mind that the staff at the counseling center and the new navigators and everything at the resiliency center probably would have gone to jail because they would have shot and killed me had I showed up for work. And I didn't want to do that to the community, so I stayed away. That's what I'm saying. It was my giving. The other thing I'm going to tell you is always, always, always bring it to God. God knows what's going on. He doesn't have to be told. He knows. But he sure wants you to share it. He sure wants you to say, God, I need help. God, I'm struggling. I promised myself when I got out of the hospital in the Bahamas that I would never do that to myself or to those that cared about me. I would start listening to people when they said, Scott, you need to stop. And that's not in me. I'm not a stopper. But I promised myself, and I promised, do you know how hard it is to go out on an apologetic tour? I had to do that. I had to apologize when I got back in from the Bahamas. I had to apologize to so many people because they told me I needed to stop and I wouldn't listen. And they didn't do it because they were trying to put me down and call me weak. They did it because they knew what was best for me. God knows what's best for me. Mental health is a vital part of our overall life, and we need to take care of it. God didn't say, keep your burdens inside. God didn't say, don't talk about it. God said, pray and he'll bring you help. Ministry Village is some of that help. So is this church. Help is in many different forms. Sometimes the absolute best healing you can get is just to have a friend that will sit and talk to you. And sometimes even more is that friend that just sits with you. Or that family member that just sits with you. Because there are no magic words. When you go to a funeral, I have never gone to a funeral. I've never heard anybody say anything like, oh, because of your words, I'm healed. I feel so much better. But I've heard a lot of people say, because you were there, it helped. That ministry of presence is a powerful thing. Create an atmosphere. I'm going to finish it with this. Create an atmosphere in this church and in your life and everywhere you go. Create an atmosphere that allows people to come and talk to you when they're struggling. And that's an everyday thing. You have to create that atmosphere. When one of the things that I've dealt with a lot in my life because of the job I had and the things I did, I dealt with a lot of suicides in public safety. And it never fails when there is a suicide of a public safety member, social media lights up with, I wish they had talked. Create that atmosphere where they can do it. Help the Ministry Village healing by creating the atmosphere where people feel comfortable saying, I need help. Refer them over to us. Support us if you can. And create that atmosphere. I thank you all for your time.